I lost my grandma on my mom's side, and I had lost 2 grandparents before in high school, but for some reason this one was just a little bit harder for me. We knew that she was sick for a while. April 28th is when she passed away in 2017. She was in the hospital for a little while, but her wish was to go home, and so that's what we did. We put her in an ambulance and we got her back to Torrington, and it was like a 3-hour drive back. And in the ambulance she became dependent on the oxygen that they were giving her. She was basically on life support. We got her there on April 28th. We had to make the decision to either take her off of life support or continue, and we'd made the decision to take her off. And I think that's what made it really hard for me, was actually being there when someone passed away. Watching someone you love take their last breath is really hard.
A counselor here, and I'm supervised by a licensed psychologist here. And so when students come in, what I typically do is work with them on whatever their presenting concern is, if it's depression, grief, anxiety, stress, academic stress, whatever it is that's bothering them, we work on that. For most people, I mean, there's never a good time for grief to happen, but it usually happens when there's a million other things to do. I mean, they have like academic stuff to do, personal stuff to do, social stuff to do. Depending on how busy they are on campus, they could have lots of things that they're going to get pulled away from, so to speak. Or if they do the other thing where like they don't talk about what they're grieving with, then they have all that grief plus their other stresses. So that's why it could be different than, I guess, would be like a normal 9 to 5 where people's doing essentially one job all day. When you're a student, you're doing several different things during the day, several different times of the day. You don't have a regular schedule, so to speak. Yeah, you have like your Tuesday, Thursdays, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but you have to move from place to place. When you're in a job, for the most part, you're in one place, or if you have an outdoor job, you go different places, but there isn't that much variety from day to day. Whereas as a student, there is a lot more.
My story goes back to when I was 6 years old. My brother, he was about 14 years older than me, and he was murdered. It was a hate crime. And so I had to grow up really quick, and it really did take a toll on my parents. So that was my first exposure to loss. And then when I was 16, my dad unexpectedly passed away. He had a lot of health problems. He was diabetic, and he had congestive heart failure, and he was placed into a drug-induced coma because he had a brain hemorrhage, and he would have just been a vegetable for the rest of his life. So after 6 days in life support, my mom decided to take him off, and luckily I had my mom. My mom and I had each other to be each other's rocks. Then when I was 18, my mom was diagnosed with liver cancer in October of 2015. And it was very aggressive, and it had metastasized from when she had cancer when she was 30. So it was just laying dormant all these years. So she passed away on December 20th. So yeah, my dad passed away in January 2014, and my mom passed away in December 2015. So almost 2 years of loss.
I struggled a lot last year in school. When I got back to college, I was not doing good at all. I failed a couple classes, and my GPA dropped a lot. And so now I am working on getting my GPA back up. It affected me way more than I thought it would.
Some people are very vocal about the loss. Some people are very, very overt about it. Some people are less so. And college students specifically, depending on how much support they have in the beginning, I mean, if they come here and they're a freshman, they don't really know anybody, and they lose somebody close to them, they could feel more alone than they ever had before.
I was physically hurting from grief. When it came to relating to my peers, in some ways it was harder because I just had a different outlook on life. Like they would complain about materialistic things or just complained in general, and it was just really hard to relate to that.
How I sought help throughout this is I didn't for a while. I didn't talk to my friends or family because I didn't want to bother them with that. So I finally decided this past summer to go to a counselor, and that has helped me tremendously. I recommend it. If you're even thinking about going to a counselor, you should do it. Some advice that I'd give someone going through this is just make sure you're taking care of yourself. If you need to go talk to someone, it's okay to go talk to someone. Your friends and family really are there for you.
Helpful is really less is more. Just being there with that person is a big deal. Whether it's if you just like check in on them and see how they're doing, if talking with them like real, if they want to connect with someone like through clergy, or there's more ways to do it than coming to therapy. That you can do it with your family, with your friends, with your church, with your mosque, whatever it is. There's lots of ways to grieve. That's healthy, I would say.
So advice that I would give to someone going through a hard time or grieving the loss of somebody would be, don't let people tell you how to grieve. You grieve the way that you feel like you need to, as long as it's healthy. And there's no time limit on how long you should grieve or get over it, because you don't get over it. You get through it. The way to true healing is to feel the pain. It sucks, but you just have to feel the hurt to really move forward. What I've realized is we grieve for ourselves. We don't grieve for our loved ones because they're gone. They're not hurting anymore. They're not gone from our hearts or our memories, but they're not struggling, and yeah, they're at rest. And ultimately, it does get better with time. It does get better. So that's what I would suggest, and I hope that this brings an encouragement to those who have lost a loved one.